However, this statement is questionable since the Pok Pung Ho, another T-62 base tank with the 2A46 125mm gun, was confirmed to have a manual loader. The fire control system was replaced with one matching the new main gun, and the spent shell ejection system was dispensed with. Used wider tracks. Ukraine. T-55 AGM Ukrainian T-54/T-55 modernization, which can also be applied to T-62S.63. T-62 AG upgraded by Kharkiv Morozov Machine Building Design Bureau. It is fitted with 5 TDF 700 HP diesel engine, a 125mm KBA 101 tank gun, new fire control equipment and enhanced armor protection. The combat weight is 39.5 tons. The crew still consists of 4 men because there is no automatic loader. The upgrade package is aimed at the export market, since the Ukrainian army no longer uses the T-62.23. Kharkiv Morozov Machine Building Design Bureau is offering 3 T-62 conversions SAD Smiley 64, T-62 based heavy infantry fighting vehicle, T-62 based armored recovery vehicle, T-62 based armored bridge layer. United States. T-62. This version is modified in a number of ways, including the replacement of the original diesel engine with a Caterpillar diesel engine and fitting of US radios and antennae mounts. T-62 tanks modified in such a way were used by the US Army for opposing forces training. 23. Operators. A map of T-62 operators in blue with former operators in red, current operators. Afghanistan 100 were ordered in 1973 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1975 and 1976. 155 were ordered in 1979 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1979 and 1991. The vehicles were probably previously in Soviet service. 44. In service with the Afghan army were T-62, T-62M and T-62M1. 23. Algeria 330 delivered between 1977. Soldiers assigned to the 1st Afghanistan National Army Armored Battalion stand in formation with 7 of their T-62s and 2 of their T-62MS during their graduation ceremony held at Polikarki, Afghanistan, May 2003 and 1979. 44. Angola 175 were ordered in 1980 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1981 and 1985. Their vehicles were previously in Soviet service. 35 were ordered in 1987 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1987. 100 were ordered in 1987 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1987 and 1988. The vehicles were previously in Soviet service. 24 were ordered in 1993 from Bulgaria and delivered in 1993. The vehicles were previously in Bulgarian service. 30 were ordered in 1993 from Russia and delivered between 1993 and 1994. The vehicles were previously in Soviet and then Russian service. Some could be T-55s. 44. 18 are currently in service. 65. Cuba 200 were ordered in 1976 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1976 and 1983. Their vehicles were previously in Soviet service. 200 were ordered in 1984 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1984 and 1988. 44. 380 are currently in service. 23. They are modernized to the T-62M standard. 55. Egypt 750 were ordered in 1971 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1972 and 1975. 44, approximately 600, 500 of which are modernized and 100 stored, are current lying service. 2, 3, 1,300 T-62s were in service in the 1980s. Currently 500 are in service. 66. Eritrea received a number from Ethiopia. 67. Ethiopia 20 were ordered in 1977 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1977. Their vehicles were previously in Soviet service. 50 were ordered in 1980 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1980. The vehicles were previously in Soviet service. 44. Approximately 100 are currently in service. 2, 3. Tigray Defense Forces, 68. Iran 65 were ordered in 1981 from Libya and received in 1981 as aid. The vehicles were previously in Libyan service. 100 were ordered in 1982 from Syria and delivered in 1982. The vehicles were previously in Syrian service. Iran ordered 150 CH-Mahos in 1981 from North Korea and they were delivered between 1982 and 1985. 44. They had 100 T-62s and CH-Mahos in service in 1990, 150 in 1995, 75 in 2000, 2002, 2005, and 2008. 69. Currently 50 are in service. 70. Kurdistan Region 120 with PUK Peshmerga forces, and 50 with KDP Peshmerga forces. 71. Libya 150 were ordered in 1973 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1974. 400 were ordered in 1976 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1976 and 1978. 250 were ordered in 1978 from the Soviet Union and delivered in 1978. 44. At the peak there were approximately 900 T-62s in service. 2, 3. Before the fall of the Gaddafi regime, 100 were in service and 70 were stored. 72. In 2020, T-62MS and T-62MVs were delivered by Russia to the Libyan National Army. 73. Mongolia 100 were ordered in 1973 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1973 and 1975. 250 are in service in 2011. 44. North Korea 350 were ordered in 1970 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1971 and 1975. 150 ordered in 1974 from the Soviet Union were delivered between 1976 and 1978. 44. North Korea also produced more than 1,200 CH-Mahos. 2, 3. There were 1,200 CH-Mahos in service in 1985, 1,500 in 1990, 1,800 in 1995, 800 in 2000 and 2,000 inches 2011. 74. Russia at least 2,000 were inherited from the Soviet Union. 761 were in active service in 1995. 191 were in active service and 1,929 in storage as of 2000. During 2013 all the tanks of the model and its modifications were allegedly scrapped. 75. Later it was found this was not true, as Russia reactivated numerous T-62s to resupply the Syrian army. 76. In 2022, Russia sent T-62 tanks to reinforce the southern Ukraine offensive in Zaporizhzhia Oblast during the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine. Reportedly up to 600 T-62s were taken out of long-term storage. 77. Syria 500 were ordered in 1973 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1973 and 1974. 200 ordered in 1978 from Libya were delivered in 1979 as aid. 300 were ordered in 1982 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1982 and 1984. The vehicles were previously in Soviet service. 44. This country had 1,000 T-62MS and T-62KS in service in 1990, 1995, 2000, 2001 and 2003 and around 1,000 in 2005. 78. In 2018. The Russian Federation reactivated and field-tested T-62M and T-62MV tanks from war stores and transported them to Syria. 79. Syria. Free Syrian Army limited use of captured government tanks, 80. People's Defense Units, YPG, 81. Tajikistan 10 were in service in 2000. 7 in service as of 2013. 82. Ukraine at least 383 were inherited from the former Soviet Union. 85 in service in 1995, 1 in 1996, none in 2000. 84, 85, as of February 2023. Ukraine has also captured 42 units of T-62 OB. 1967, T-62M and T-62MV, 86, from Russian Army in the Russo-Ukrainian War. Several of these captured T-62s are modified to serve as armored recovery vehicles. 87, 88. Uzbekistan 179 were in service in 1995. 190 in 2000 and 170 in 2005. 89. Vietnam around 70, 90. Yemen 150, 67. Former operators. U.S. Army T-62 at Fort Irwin National Training Center, 1988. Belarus 170 were in service in 1995. By 2000 they had been taken out of service. 91. Bulgaria 250 were ordered in 1969 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1970 and 1974. 44. A number were received from the Soviet Union after the Soviet-Afghan War, modernized, withdrawn from service and then converted into TV-62MS. 23. Withdrawn from service around 2000, only recovery vehicles remain in us. Iraq 100 were ordered in 1973 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1974 and 1975. 600 ordered in 1976 from the Soviet Union were delivered between 1977 and 1979. 2,150 were ordered in 1982 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1982 and 1989. The vehicles were probably previously in Soviet service. 1,500 were in service in 1990, 500 in 1995, 2000 and 2002. 92. More than 1,000 were in service before the Gulf War. Islamic State, 93. Israel 120. Tehran 6, non-combat service. 2, 3, 94. Forces Lebanese flag. SVG. Lebanese forces. The Christian Lebanese Forces militia received 64 T-55 and T-62 tanks from Iraq via Jordan in 1988-89. Soviet Union. More than 20,000 were produced between July 1961 and 1975. There were 12,900 in 1985 and 11,300 in 1990. The tanks were passed on to successor states. 95. Turkmenistan 7 tanks. North Yemen 16 ordered in 1979 from the Soviet Union were delivered in 1980. Their vehicles were previously in Soviet service. 44. South Yemen 50 were ordered from the Soviet Union in 1979 and received in 1979 AZ. Another 100 were ordered in 1980 from the Soviet Union and delivered between 1981 and 1982. 120 more ordered in 1986 from the Soviet Union were delivered in 1986. All their vehicles of the last batch were previously in Soviet service. 44. Yemeni Southern Rebels 56 were ordered in 1994 from Bulgaria and delivered in 1994. The vehicles were previously in Bulgarian service. They were bought for $20 million. 44. Evaluation-only operators. China. A Soviet T-62 was captured by the PLA during the 1969 Sino-Soviet border clash along the Ussuri River. 96. It was used for study only. Czechoslovakia evaluated the tank, but did not accept it. Combat history. 1969, Sino-Soviet border conflict, Soviet Union. 1973, Yom Kippur War, Egypt, Syria. 1961-1991, Iraqi Kurdish conflict, Iraq, Peshmerga. 1974-1991, Ethiopian Civil War, Ethiopia. 1975-1991, Western Sahara War, Polisario. 1975-2002, Angolan Civil War, Angola. 1977-1978, Ogaden War, Cuba. 1978-1987, Chadian-Libyan conflict, Libya. 1986-1987, Toyota War. 1979-1988, Soviet-Afghan War, Soviet Union. 1979-1989, Cambodian-Vietnamese War. 1980-1988, Iran-Iraq War, Iran, Iraq. 1982-1983, Lebanese Civil War, Phase 3. 1988-1993, Georgian Civil War 1991-1992, War in South Ossetia. 1992-1993, War in Abkhazia. 1990-1991, Gulf War, Iraq.
Yes, let's stop. The video splits in 1 minute, so let's keep it in 5 parts. I'm a little bit sleepy today. I think we have to get back to read about computer hardware and something else, because I cannot spend my days just to read about weapons. I'm soon age 60, I don't have so much time left in my life. So I have to think about what kind of subjects I better like to read about, India or Ganges River or something else. But now I did this Russian T-62 tanks. So far I still need a lot more. But actually I better like to read about the Ganges River or India. Or I had to get back to read about all this computer and information technology. So, but now I have to stop the video because now I need a break.